From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Podmonster.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Podmonster podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are proud members of the URN Podcast Network. You can find all of our previous episodes at urnpodcast.com. And while you're there, please check out all the other great shows that are on the podcast network as well. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Podmonster podcast, and his name is Sean. Sean, have you been naughty?
I mean, I probably have.
Doesn't take
Hopefully
much in
not.
certain
Yeah.
movies.
Hopefully not recently. I think I've been okay recently.
You haven't done anything to me, so I guess I can't complain.
Well, that's
Speaking of
good.
naughty, what have you been watching recently?
Nothing naughty. Haven't been watching anything naughty.
Oh.
I've been watching a few old favorites of mine. Of course, the 25th season of Grand Design came out, so I think it's actually 25 years for them. So it's kind of cool that it's already all aired, so they're all out. And the last episode was the house that they visited for the first episode ever. So this is a 25-year reunion of sorts for the show to the house that they first went and based the show on. So that was a cool little episode. You got to see footage for a lot of it from 25 years ago, and the host looking a lot younger. It's been the same host for 25 years, so that's something. I also watched Baby Driver. You've seen Baby Driver, right?
I have not.
You've never seen Baby Driver?
No, this came up once before. I have not seen. I know
shit,
that it's
John.
probably need to watch it, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Wow, well, I guess we're not really
I like
going to talk
Edgar
much
Wright.
about Baby Driver then, are we?
You can say whatever you want. I likely will unsober myself and forget about it by the time I get around to watching.
There's not really much to say if you haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to be that guy. It's a good movie.
Okay.
One of my favorite Edgar Wright movies. So I think if you like Edgar Wright and you like the whole thing that he does, and you like his kind of pop culture-y kind of sensibilities, I think you'll like it a lot.
I generally do.
Yeah. I mean, it's all car chases and bank robberies and heists and stuff. So it's probably, I think, Kevin Spacey's like last role before it came to light that he was maybe not such a nice guy that everybody thought he was. But, you know, if you can look beyond that, which I hope you could, it's a good movie. I like it.
You know, for all the things that could be rumored or said or proven about Kevin Spacey off screen, I have to admit he's a damn good actor in the majority of roles I've seen him in, which that shouldn't make the whole thing with his personal life harder to deal with, but in a way it kind of does.
It can be very hard to separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
And really, other than that, I don't want to keep talking about Baby Driver, even though it's a great movie and you should see it like ASAP. You should have already seen it, to be honest. I watched a YouTube documentary. I find myself at night kind of just falling into watching stuff on YouTube, like creators that I like to watch. This one is a creator that I like to watch, but it was the Half-Life 25th anniversary documentary, which was put out directly by Valve on YouTube. And it's basically like it's been 25 years. I think it came out last year, actually, because the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2, they made a Half-Life 2 documentary. Same thing. So if I'm speaking Greek to you, Half-Life is a PC game.
No, I actually know a little bit about Half-Life, mostly because I really like Portal in that game.
Oh, yeah. So Half-Life is direct lineage from Portal, but they basically cover in this...
I thought it was the other way around, but...
Portal is direct lineage from Half-Life?
Portal came from Half-Life.
Yes. Did I say the other way?
I thought you did.
You know what I meant. Anyways, they cover the formation of Valve and how it kind of came to be, and basically the entire development of Half-Life. Like I said, they put out an episode or a documentary based on Half-Life 2. So that was, I don't think I ever finished Half-Life, but I definitely finished Half-Life 2. And I finished it like years after it came out. I finally got around to finishing it, even though I'd played it like several parts of it over and over and over again. Just never finished it. And then I finally finished it. And I'm looking forward to watching the documentary, but I think part 2 is like 2 hours. And the Half-Life original 25th anniversary documentary is about an hour.
At the risk of pissing you off, is Half-Life 2 on PC actually good? Because I only played it on console and I was not impressed with it.
What didn't impress you about it?
Kind of everything. it was clunky. The game mechanics didn't work well. The engine didn't run well. It looked at the time still, I want to say I played it on 360, which is kind of right around when graphics started looking pretty good, and it still looked pretty polygonal to me at the time. So it was just kind of, I guess this is the equivalent of what you say about movies that get too hyped up. It was so hyped up, and when I played it, I just felt like everything was flat in it, and it didn't really do it for me. So I only got like, I don't know, 2-3 hours into the game before I was like, this one's not for me, and did something else.
It is, I will say, playing it on Xbox or playing in that orange box pack on console was probably the worst place to play it. It's definitely a place that you'd want to play a PC game, like you'd want to play it on PC. I think they made too many compromises bringing it to consoles because the stuff that Valve's thing. Valve doesn't put out a lot of games.
If you listen to the PC gamers, that's the common thing. You have to compromise too much, right?
Well, I think for that game in particular, you do. Just because the computational power probably takes a lot. Because there's a lot of physics going on in that game. That was like one of the first big games. Well, Half-Life and Half-Life 2 both really played around with physics a lot. So I just don't know if a console could dedicate enough computational power at that time for like all the physicsy stuff that's going on in the background. I will say that Valve's thing, they don't release a lot of games. I was saying this before. They don't release a lot of games. And I think their thing is, especially ones that they've made, they've bought studios that have then put games out. Portal is an example of that. But they want to do something new in every game. So part one was like the scripting engine that was new, like making these really big levels was a new thing for games. 2 was a lot of the physics, a lot of the puzzles that they had in there. That was something that had really not been done before. A lot of the gravity stuff. As you get later in the game, there's, I don't know if you got to it, but there's like a whole section in the game where you have a gravity gun and you're picking up like saw blades and you're shooting them through these like those like walker dudes with the head crabs on their heads.
I don't remember that. I remember using the gravity gun to like move boxes through like
you eventually use that for
shit,
weapons.
so.
Like not to spoil a 20-year-old game, but like at the end,
play it, so it's fine. Spoil away.
Spoiler alert for any listeners out there that are going to play a 20-year-old game. They use the end of the game is all basically like a souped up gravity gun, and they actually a third party. I think it's sanctioned by Valve, but someone made a new up-resed, like a new, what do they call those when they like a remake essentially. It's called Black Mesa. No, it's a whole new engine, whole everything. It's all updated. So it looks like it's from the 2020s rather than being a, 1998 game or whatever. So if you're interested in Half-Life, you haven't played it and you're interested in playing something, it's called Black Mesa. It's on Steam. It's pretty cheap. I want to say it's like $15 max, maybe. And it's probably always on sale. But that's bringing Half-Life into the modern gaming space. Half-Life is like, I don't know, it's like one of those pillars of PC gaming for more reasons than just being a first-person shooter. I mean, if you think of like games like Team Fortress or any of the team deathmatch kind of games, Half-Life probably has a hand in that just as much as a Quake or a Doom, or, well, more so than Doom, probably like a Quake, probably right on even field with Quake. But yeah, so that's what I watched this week.
Okay.
Long story short.
No, that's good to know.
How about
Would
you?
You like to hear what kind of crap I watched?
Yeah, I want to hear what kind of crap you watched.
I was going to put on Baby Driver, but I got distracted and put on Death Escort instead.
Fuck you.
So, I mean, half of that's true, but I don't even know if I really need to talk about Death Escort. Don't watch that. It's bad. I did go back and watch a classic.
Is that about a car, a Ford that kills people, or?
That would be more interesting than what this movie is about. So, no, this movie, Death Escort, is basically just guy kills hookers and makes a face out of hooker parts, and it's not very good. And there's shit tons of gratuitous nudity. It's basically, I mean, I should have realized this when like every single actor, including the male actors, are like known porn stars. So that should have been a tip, but for some reason, it's like, I'm going to watch this anyway.
He said tip.
I did. And it's bad. But, I mean, if you like a lot of gratuitous nudity, it has that with bad gore on top of it. I did go back to the well and watch which I think we've brought it up on the show before, but if not, this is like pure, I want to say 60s, maybe 70s, like garbage, but kind of fun at the same time. Werewolves on Wheels, old biker movie where they get all Satan-y and do some Satan stuff and then turn into werewolves, kind of, sort of. So you've seen this one, right?
I have, and I've been biting my tongue, but I want to say, like, I don't ever feel the need to go back and rewatch it. So I'm kind of curious as to like what was the impetus for you to go back and watch that movie again?
Well, I just finished Death Escort, and I was like, I need something else to watch, and
Eye
this
bleach.
is what we did.
This is your eye bleach.
You know, Werewolves on Wheels is one of those movies that has the great misfortune or great strength of having a really amazing poster that goes along with it, because the poster is like, it's a shame I haven't bought one yet, because it's like arguably one of my favorite posters. Like it's just, and if you haven't seen it, it's basically a very, like, again, late 60s, early 70s, like drugged out looking werewolf. If I remember right, he's got like a half naked chick on him and he's on a bike looking crazy. It looks like something ripped off like an Evel Knievel like promo or something like that. It's very, very fun. The movie does not quite live up to that. But it does deliver on its title because it has werewolves and it does have wheels. So I guess it's better than some things. The other thing that I watched, and this is... Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say Werewolves on Wheels is better than this. I went to the thrift store and, you know, as I do, I rummage through movies and find some crap. And I found a movie that was starring the great actor Ice-T and the also great actor Christopher Lambert. So Ice-T and Highlander. And a movie called Mean Guns.
If he heard you say that, I think he would not approve of you pronouncing his name like that.
Which one? Christopher Lambert?
No, Ice-T. Yeah, of course, Christopher Lambert.
Lambert.
Yeah, that's his
what
name.
did I
He's
say
French.
about Ice-T? How did I say his name?
You said Ice-T. It was perfect.
Okay, whatever. Did I call him Ice Cube?
No. Oh, no, I'm just pulling your tail. You didn't say anything bad about Ice-T. He'd come here and talk all about it to you. I can't. That's my Ice-T impersonation. That's almost as bad as my jokes earlier. Apologies. Continue, please.
That was a bad impersonation. Anyway, this movie is a piece of shit. It was worth 50 cents because what else am I going to do with 2 quarters? I guess I don't really like gumballs, so
Rub them together.
Yeah, but basically the premise of this movie is Ice-T is like a crime guy, kind of, sort of. But for some reason, he locks 100 other crime guys in a prison and says, all right, everybody kill each other. And the last 3 people left get, I think it's some really like odd number. It's like $12 million. It's not like an even number or like a 5. It's some weird number.
$267.37.
Yeah, it might as well. In fact, that would make it better just because it could be even more random. But it's basically just that. Like you get this insane like 5-minute shootout / beating montage where like everyone gets their weapons. They get guns and rifles and bats and so on, and they're all in like the common room in this prison, wherever the fuck it's supposed to be, like in the prison, and they all like right there, like half of the cast or these 100 people are like wiped out right there, just from the chaos of this first scene. And then after that, like, it's kind of I don't want to call it like a battle royale or like something like that, because that's just frankly such a better movie. I feel like this
too much credit.
Giving it way too much credit. But basically the rest of it is everyone in this prison that's left in there is just kind of ducking in and out of hiding spots. And it also has Tom Matthews in it from Return of the Living Dead, Friday the 13th, and so on. Looking weird. Like, it looks like he's at an age where he's not quite young Tom Matthews like we know from the Friday movies, but he's also not like current day Tom Matthews where it looks like he's been around the block for 60 years. So he's in this weird time frame where I'm like, I don't know if I've seen any other late 90s movies with him like looking like this in it. So it's this weird little gap in his resume, I guess. Christopher Lambert is like he's basically the same character that he is in Highlander. What? Why are you shaking your head no at me? Did I say his name wrong or something?
Christopher Lambert.
Is it Lambert? It's not Lambert.
Lambert. I'm serious. It's Lambert. He's going to be so mad when he
Chris-
hears this podcast that you've called him Christopher Lambert 2 times.
You know what? If he had to watch this movie, he wouldn't pronounce his name right. So
I'm sorry, I have a French last name. I'm very, very sensitive about it.
fine. Anyway, he's basically like this mall goth like version of the Highlander who makes it pretty far in this contest. And I don't want to ruin it and say what happens with them. You know, you might watch this piece of shit. And really, it's one of those movies. It's like, okay, so you basically promised me a movie with a 97 person body count, and I'm still bored through the whole fucking movie.
Mean guns.
So
Mayhem
Mean
is
Guns,
good.
That is the tagline on the box, and I feel, even at 50 cents, feel very lied to.
Feel cheated out of 49 cents.
Yep. I mean, I'm not going to go ask for my quarters back. It's on the shelf now.
Would you have
It's
more fun
available
rubbing
for-
them together, honestly? The quarters?
Probably not. Probably. But maybe. I had to think about it. So
Yeah, that's true. I saw the wheels turning.
the rat is on a hamster wheel. Yeah. All that good stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So we'll get into it here. We're going to take a break in just a second, come back and talk about our title for the week. But before we do, I'm just going to go ahead and drop it in here now and say this movie that we're about to talk about, being Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, is this month's Franks and Science movie over at Batch Brewing in Corktown. So, if you like this movie, if you haven't seen this movie, but you saw the first one, shit, honestly, if you haven't seen the first one, it really doesn't matter. Come out to Batch Brewing on December 19th. We're going to be showing this movie at 7 p.m. There will be hot dogs, there will be beer, there will be us. So 2 of those 3 things are pretty great. And come hang out with us. We'll celebrate Christmas with the most appropriate of Christmas movies around.
Be there or be square.
That's right. We are back, and as we do, we are starting this week's movie chat with our third-party review, and this one is from E6E6, which might or might not be a droid. And E6E6 says,
Beep, boop, boop, boop.
this may just... yeah. This may just be the worst movie I have ever seen. Basically, nearly the whole thing is crap. I urge you never to watch this horrible film. Do not watch this film. You will waste 2 hours of your life.
What movie is
Half
this
a
guy
star.
watching? What movie is he watching? This is an hour and 22-minute movie.
He started over, I guess. I don't know.
He added the runtime of the first movie and they put it on the end. Got it.
That, or he just was like, was this really that bad? Started over, got through the first half of the movie. Fuck, I
It
hate
is.
this.
What? I'm sorry.
So,
What was
Sean-
the rating? I cut you off. What was the rating?
Half a star out of 5.
Okay.
So-
All right. Well deserved.
So, Sean, what is this movie that is hated by droids far and wide?
Well, to find that out, we go over to IMDb. It's a website, .com, and we type in the words. There's a place where you can type words in, and it says you can type the words in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, and it'll bring you to a page with some movie stuff on it. This gets a 3.9 out of 10 with 9,300 ratings. And if we look at the storyline and the plot, not quite sure which is which, but we'll go to the one on the top because it's on the top, and I figure you should probably read that one first. It says, the now adult Ricky talks to a psychiatrist about how he became a murderer after his brother, Billy, died, which leads back to Mother Superior. And if we scroll down to the bottom, that's where the storyline is. And this is just by chance. It's not by chance that this was written, but it was written by chance. It says, this is quite long, so I apologize in advance. The door of the mental hospital opens, releasing Ricky from its confines. This is getting too philosophical here. He takes with him the terrifying memory of his brother Billy's
It's
death.
like no one actually watched the movie that we're talking about this
Yeah.
week.
And the burning image of Mother Superior, the powerful figure that's brought about his brother's violent demise. For Ricky, starting a new life means avenging his brother's death by whatever means necessary, whether it be the cutting edge of a shiny steel knife blade or the electrifying charge of a set of battery cables. Ricky is set in this blind journey of revenge, leading ultimately to Mother Superior. As Mother Superior prays in the dark, we suggest that she say a little extra prayer for herself because not even her faith is enough to stop Ricky. But prayers do little for the silent part of this night. Exclamation point.
Does Ricky kill anyone with a knife in this movie? Am I forgetting that? I don't think he does.
Wow. Deep questions right off the bat.
I don't think he does.
Yeah,
I don't think
he
Billy
does.
did either.
No,
I mean,
he used a lot
even
of
if you're
axes.
counting the stuff from the axes and choking and
Stuff.
shit like that, I don't remember a knife
Yeah,
being used. So
it
the
sounded good.
storyline is bullshit. Yeah, well, the storyline is bullshit. There's a lot of things that don't line up there, but that's fine. Sean, is there anyone aside from the lead who I'm sure we're going to talk about extensively, but we can include him here? Is there anyone that we care about in this movie?
No, I was going to say the only people you might recognize from this movie are the people that you see in the cut version of the first movie that are in this, and you would recognize it from the previous movie. I will say this, though. One big kind of surprise that I found while looking through the cast list is the guy who plays Chip. His name in this movie is listed as Kenneth Brian James. Now, his real name is Ken Weickert. I think that's how you pronounce that. Silent Night, Deadly Night is his only credit at the time in 1987 when this was filmed. After the film, it says in his biography that he joined the Army in 1988 and eventually became a master fitness trainer, and he developed a fitness program for civilians. He goes by the nickname Sergeant Ken, which is weird. And I was like, this has, sometimes when you look on IMDb and you read somebody's biography, it's usually written, if it's somebody that's not been in a lot of stuff, it's sometimes written by the person that it's about. And I had to look it up because I was like, I don't believe anything in here. No, sure as shit. I looked up Ken Weickert to see what he's up to. He's like huge. He's like this big, buff, bald fitness dude. So that was interesting. I mean, whatever. Just going down the rabbit hole on it.
Well, good to know.
Yeah.
So before we go too far here, we might as well get the first elephant out of the room because we've already said it a couple times. This is, in a lot of ways, I think this is the best example of a movie that was like, we only have half a movie. How do we fluff this out into a full movie? And there's a little bit more to it than that. The story behind the scenes is that the studio initially, when they hired Lee Harry to direct this movie, they just said, take all the footage that we have from the old movie and just edit it into another movie. So the intention was to recut the original movie and just release it as a sequel as if no one would fucking know that happened. Lee Harry said, okay, how about you? I think he did this for like something like $250,000 or something like this. He basically asked for a small amount of money, relatively speaking, and said, let me go make some new content out of this. And that's how we get what it ends up being basically two halves of a movie. The first half is all the best moments from the first movie, but it's done as like the best supercut that you're ever going to see. It's a straight highlight reel from part one, but it's really just the shit that you came to see in part one. It's none of the drama or the backs. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of the backstory, but it's really
all the tension. All the tension, all the storytelling, all the everything is taken out and just edited out with Ricky.
Kill.
Yeah, Ricky, the character in the new movie, basically narrating what happened and why his brother turned out this way. And one thing I do want to say is that even if they didn't think that they were going to make a part two, they were really pretty forward thinking with including the brother in this the whole time and not really making him a character at all in the first movie. So I have to give it props for like planning that far ahead, which I think just happened to be like a really happy accident for them. I feel like it wasn't meant to be like that.
That would be my guess. Because again, depending on what you read or listen to, the only reason why this movie got greenlit for a sequel is because of the protests that came about from the first movie, thus causing people to go see it. Because, when the church gets pissed, what's better advertisement than the church being pissed off at your movie, right?
Yeah. And there's only 3 years in between the previous one and this one.
Yeah. And honestly, even that, like, if you think about how movies are cranked out in the 80s, especially like 80s slasher flicks, it almost surprises me it took them 3 years to crank out this one. Like, and again, not that it's really fair to compare it to like Friday the 13th, but I think every year except 1 year in the 80s had a Friday the 13th movie. That's how quick they were cranking them out each year. So it's not unheard of for him to be like, well, shit, we made some money. We better fucking strike while the iron's hot or whatever. So that leads us kind of to where this movie is. I don't really feel like we need to spend a lot of time rehashing the first movie. We already covered the first movie last year in December. If you want to hear our thoughts on that extensively, please go back and listen to that.
It'll be in the show
there will be
notes. Yeah.
So there you go.
Absolutely.
So we're going to pick up right about the end of Billy's rampage and right around the time where we find Ricky as an adult recording his own podcast with his shrink in a cell after he's told him everything that happened. And he basically goes into all the shit that happened to him after Billy's demise.
This movie is made basically like a bunch of vignettes. These little stories, these little things that happen, these acts of violence that Ricky does, and they basically use that with more narration from the first movie to make a story out of the second thing. If you can even call it a story, it's like Story Light. It's the lightest version of a story. It's just Ricky going places and causing mayhem or attacking people or
it is, but if
shit.
you're going to do it on such a shoestring budget, it's kind of an ingenious way to do it too. Like you can tell most of these set pieces look like they're just, I mean, outside of whoever's in the scene, which I don't think there's ever more than like 3 people in the scene.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like they just kind of went to, oh, here's a field in a Jeep. Let's go see what we can do here. Or
here's a room
whatever
in a building.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say the movie theater is the only exception. And I think that in the scene, there's some hecklers in the back row and they're kind of yelling at Ricky and his girlfriend.
One of them is the director.
There's an older couple that's sitting in front of them. And that scene, the way it's shot, they do one angle for the reaction of the people in the audience, which are 4 people total. So yeah, everything in this movie, I didn't even pick up on that until you just said it. But now that you said it, everything is filmed so sparsely. There's 2 people to 4 people max in a scene at one time. It's really shoestring, really low budget.
But
it works.
It's cohesive enough. It does work for what they're doing. And it's kind of funny, like for a movie that literally takes half of the first half of this movie is literally the first movie. It kind of feels fresh, or at least fresh enough that, I don't know, maybe it's just because I really enjoy the first movie. I don't mind seeing a highlight reel of it just to kind of get me in the mood for more of it. If that's what they were doing, I don't know. It doesn't bother me for whatever reason.
My only complaint with it is if you watch them too close to each other, if you watch 1 and 2 too close, You're just like, oh my God, why did I even watch 1? And 1's a good movie, and I feel like, well, that's objective, right? But I feel like for what it is, for a Christmas slasher, it's perfectly serviceable. It's got a lot of good kills in it. It's got a decent story. It's trying to push a storyline. It's trying to make you feel empathetic about this poor kid who's been orphaned and his parents were killed by Santa Claus, and he's forced to dress up like Santa, and he gets triggered, right? And he starts going off on shit. But when you watch the first one and you watch an hour and a half of that, and then you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, cool, a sequel? I'm going to watch this right away. If it might be even somewhat similar to the first one, and you start it up and you have 40 minutes.
It's very similar to the first one.
Yeah. You're like, wait a second, didn't I just watch this? It's literally 40 minutes of an hour and 20. Let's take the credits out. And you have 40 minutes of that as the first movie. So it can be very off-putting if you're trying to watch them back to back. Just skip the first one. Honestly, that's my opinion.
If you're going to try to watch them back to back, I would agree with you. I'll say a piece about comparing them later. So, Sean, before we get into the major highlights, because this is one of the most quotable movies, at least in this genre, what are some of the things you like aside from the other big elephant in the room that we haven't brought up yet?
My favorite part of this movie is Ricky Caldwell, the character, but Eric Freeman, the actor, his eyebrows are my favorite thing in this entire movie. I can mute this and just watch his eyebrows.
I was watching, just kind of putzing around on YouTube, and it came up with the Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 drinking game. And the guy who wrote it said, I was going to say take a drink every time Ricky does something with his eyebrows, but you would be dead before the first movie.
Within like 30 seconds of him being on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his eyebrows are practically their own character in this. He makes The Rock look like a bitch.
I can't even move my eyebrows that fast when I'm trying to.
Oh, I can.
But he just goes, his eyebrows are off the charts.
Them all over.
They should have their own acting school. He has the most expressive eyebrows I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird choice because I don't know if it makes him seem more crazy, less crazy, or just like a weird quirk they tried to throw it, or I'm assuming he just started doing and they just ran with for however long they shot this. Either way, there's a lot of things about Ricky that are memorable, and that is absolutely so.
I just don't feel like Eric Freeman, the actor, we generally don't comment on actors specifically in movies, but I feel like this guy, Eric Freeman, I've said his name 3 times. He's going to show up on the podcast. I don't know if he understands that. I don't know if he's in on the joke, essentially. Like, I don't know if he just put in this performance and they're like, yeah, good, great. Thanks, Eric. And they're like, all right, next scene, we don't have enough money to do this again. Or if he was playing it intentionally like this, it is like hilarious.
So,
the reads are all over the place. It's just
I didn't have time to watch it, but he's on the commentary for the Blu-ray.
Oh, is he really?
Maybe we can make a live stream out of that or something.
And I also understand that there is a short that was made in like 2020 or 2021 that is supposed to be like an interview with the character, with Ricky all grown up or something.
Yeah, I've heard that too, which I haven't seen that. I know so kind of backtracking a little bit. I suspect that when they filmed this, he probably didn't realize he was doing it or kept doing it just to kind of add his own twist to it. And like you said, they were like, yeah, whatever, and kind of went on. I don't think it was that they knew it was going to be this weird like thing that it became in the movie. That would be my guess. I also know, like, for a while, didn't he basically like kind of go just MIA, like become one of those like he's in this movie and nothing else type guys for quite a while there?
I feel like he pretty much disowned his involvement in this, disavowed. I think that's the way to put that. His involvement with this movie, which I totally would understand.
Sure. But I mean, even if you look, I'm looking at his IMDb right now, and he's only got a hand, like, and most of the stuff's like a bunch of little like one-off TV episodes. Those are up until 92, and then there's nothing till 2016. And this looks like Hallmark. A Husband for Christmas. Oh.
Yeah. I don't think he's the lead, but yeah, I think that is a Hallmark movie. Or one of those like Ion or Great American Family or one of those flavors of Hallmark movies.
He's not even in the top build. Yes, fuck this.
Oh, okay, yeah. No reason to watch it.
No, not at all. We've already been roped into one horror movie actor in a Hallmark movie. I don't think we need to go down that road again. So for me, I like just as much as his eyebrows, the dialogue choices throughout this movie. Like, really from start to finish, and especially once things start going off the rails, like it gets even better. But like just some of the stuff where he's like, Doc says fuck you or whatever, like whatever he's saying to this shrink between when he's telling a story, some of the like real just sharp assholey things that he says, they're all just about everything that comes out of Eric Freeman's mouth is fucking ridiculous fucking hilarious from start to finish, and it only amplifies as this movie goes on.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know if I'm still debating like if he did. I'm really curious to listen to the commentary track now, because I really don't know if he intentionally did it that way, if he was directed to do it that way. It's hard to say, but his performance is just like one of the weirdest in any kind of movie.
Oh,
just the way that he reads things, the way that he says things, and it feels like it's just like, all right, cut. Great. Let's next scene. Let's do it.
I think we beat around the bush long enough. So this movie kind of starts going off the rails, rapid as fuck. Once we get past the initial, basically once we get past the first, which sounds weird, but makes sense if you see this. There's a little like moment in this, which is arguably the weirdest part of this movie, where he gets adopted by some Christians, or by some Jewish people, because they're Jewish because they're not going to celebrate Christmas. So they're like, well, he clearly will never have a problem again. Speak with you. I don't think that's how it works, but needless to say, that doesn't work. I do think it's pretty funny when they try. I don't know if they're trying to return him or just trying to get advice from the church, but they're like, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with this kid. Much like the first movie where they set him on Santa's lap and you get to see him roundhouse Santa in his fat ass, and he's, what's wrong with this kid? Slight bit of trauma. And then basically once we're past that, his stepdad dies. His mom's like, whatever. He's like, fuck off, mom. I got to go be by myself now because death sucks. I don't know how to deal with it. And he essentially turns into Principal Skinner when he decided to be a no good beatnik or whatever. After he got fired from being the principal, he puts on a leather coat and a white t-shirt, gets a motorcycle, scoots around town, and then, starts murdering some people.
He does murder as a young person, though, too. That's the scene.
I'm forgetting one in there.
Yeah. He runs the guy over.
That's right,
in the Jeep.
That's the one I'm forgetting.
The thing, I just want to interject real quick. The thing that I don't understand about this movie is that Ricky is like an infant when his parents get killed, when all this shit happens, but he carries that trauma.
I was there.
Yeah, he was there, but he was not aware of anything. So he gets triggered by things that he would never have any awareness of, which I feel like is just, I don't know, it's kind of a cop-out to make a movie, essentially.
I can see him, like, it being bullshit that he's triggered by everything that happened to Billy before the orphanage. The stuff like, I don't know, watching your brother get gunned down, watching two Santas get shot on the same day in your orphanage, but not in front of children. That probably fucks with you too.
Well,
right?
I'm sure it does, but why does that mean that when you see red, that triggers you? When you see some woman's blouse get ripped open, like your brother saw his mom, your mom, that happened too in the store. That's what triggers Billy. But why does that affect Ricky? Like, he doesn't see any of that stuff.
Well, if you're going to go by that logic, there's also stuff in the first movie that they replay us through Ricky's words where Ricky wasn't there for it. And let's just pretend Billy lived for a few minutes to tell Ricky his story. Billy wasn't fucking there for it.
Oh, I know.
There's a bunch of shit that doesn't make sense.
It's all shit. I mean,
yeah.
Let's not pick this movie apart.
No, we're not here for that.
No, back on track.
So Billy is kind of dead, and Ricky is kind of painted for a short period as like this little like vigilante. Like you mentioned, this guy tries to like get rough sexually with this girl. Presumably he's going to try to rape her, and Billy like murders the fuck out of him with a Jeep in really comical fashion because they shoot it like it kind of looks like an RC car just shot like to scale. The way that they run it back and forth over this thing. Like, how the fuck does drunk guy not see Ricky in the front seat of that Jeep?
Yeah, that's funny because that scene happens. When that happens, it's like 30 seconds. Well, the guy's looking in his Jeep to get something.
He puts his hand in there. He puts his hand in there, turns the key or something.
Yeah, and
they get the beer out the back.
Of it. Yeah, he walks in front of the Jeep. They change the angle, so now you see the front of the Jeep and the guy standing in front of it, and Ricky is sitting in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's very much so. Like, this is 100% movie. After, yeah, sure, why not? Might as well be the
title of this movie. Yeah,
yeah. So, and again, he goes all Batman on some like mobster, like something like that in the alley and murders the shit out of him with an umbrella. That's fine. That's okay. That's where you get to see him like actually look like Eric Freeman and be all buffed out for whatever reason. So that's good. Where it really starts getting entertaining, though, for me, is once he gets to the movie theater. Because first they go sit in the movie. So this girl, like, rear ends him on his motorcycle, and he's ready to murder the shit out of her. But then he's like, oh, she's hot. And he gets laid. So, that changes things for the time being. They go to a movie, and I love that they sit down in the theater, and he's like, what are we watching? Okay. And she's, oh, it's this movie where Santa kills a bunch of people. The way he says what to respond to it is just chef's kiss acting. Just what? Super bizarre. Maybe I did better. Maybe. And then we find out, oh, they're watching Silent Night, Deadly Night again. So we're now replaying this movie for the umpteenth time. This is where the kills start to get really, really fucking funny because, as you already mentioned, there's these two dick knots in the back being assholes, throwing popcorn and whatnot. And they start to kind of trigger Billy or Ricky. God, there's your drinking game for this episode. How many times do I fuck up which name it is?
Yeah, same.
I'm bad with names to begin with. So anyway, they trigger Ricky, and Ricky eventually goes back to kill him. One, we've already mentioned there's 4 other people in the theater at this point because his girlfriend's ex sneaks in, I guess, and there's these other 2 people. But I love this kill because it's so Scooby-Doo. all you see is this like dipshits like sneakers in the air kicking, and you hear like a squish sound, and you don't really know how he kills him, but we just presume that he murders these two guys in the back of the theater, and
At least one of them.
no one cares. Yeah, no one cares. So, this sets off, I'm going to go ahead and say it, this sets off the greatest rampage in cinema history, basically, right after this. This is the part where we get to the scene that everyone's knowing that we're going to talk about. And I'm kind of disappointed that no one ever mentions I don't know if it's the best quote, but one of the best quotes in the sequence is not the words garbage day. It's, you know, he goes up to whatever this guy, her ex-boyfriend's name is, Chip, I think. Is that his name?
It's Chip.
So he goes up to Chip, and Chip's being a prick, and he has a red car. We've already found out that red triggers Ricky for some reason. But it seems like it's really selective when it decides to trigger him, because I don't think you can just avoid the color red. It's primary fucking color, right? So,
I'm wearing it.
yes, you are.
Uh-oh.
So,
Look out for
red
Ricky.
car. So Ricky murders the shit out of Chip in very comical fashion. Like, Chip's head turns into a whole different size and shape with a different haircut as he gets electrocuted. His girlfriend starts being like, "You son of a bitch, you're a dick, blah, blah, blah," and all this. Possibly my favorite clip in this entire movie, even more than what's about to happen, is when she realizes she done fucked up, and she goes, "Uh-oh," and turns around to run. But I don't care that he's like everything else after that. Just, I can't think of another character that verbally says the words "uh-oh" and looks stupid and turns around and runs from the person that's about to do what he's gonna do. The body count's climbing, and we're off to the races. And again, this is where we really start the best cinematic rampage in history. I'm going to leave it at that. Thoughts before we go into it more?
No, why don't you just go ahead and tell us about this garbage day scene?
All right. So let's see if I can do this all from memory. So after...
Pretty brief, honestly.
Yeah, there's only like 4 kills in it after the first 2. 3 or 4. So after he kills Chip and Jennifer, a cop shows up, real like Don Knotts looking motherfucker, who's trying to be tough, but he's a stupid cop. And basically Ricky just grabs his gun, point blanks him right in the head. He then starts walking up the street with, honestly, one of the best like evil guy laughs I've ever heard in my life, and he just keeps fucking doing it. He's like the Joker, but like somehow more ridiculous.
A little lower register in the voice too.
Yeah, for sure. Some guy comes out of his house and he just blasts him right through the chest, spills his beer. So that's a little bit of a crime. That's where the real crime is he spilled this guy's beer. We see a dude taking out his trash, and sure enough, puts his trash can down, and there's Ricky, and we hear the line, "Garbage day." And the goes, what does he say? He goes, "Huh?" And he gets shot through his garbage can.
He picks the garbage can up then. Right.
He picks it up. I think he was in the process of moving it when he screams "garbage day." And then he just goes, "Huh?" He is a really good like vocal cue that comes out. Yeah. He gets shot in the chest. Ricky continues to laugh. Still pretty funny. Keeps walking up the street. And this might be where the entire budget of this fucking movie went. Because there's like a little gremlin or something coming up the street, like driving right at him. We're now looking at the 4th person in this movie that's played Ricky, because it's no longer Ricky. This is an actual stunt person. Well, it's Ricky to some extent. He shoots at the car, basically unloads what's left in the gun, hits the radiator. There's a very conveniently placed dirt ramp right next to Ricky. And the car loses control. I don't remember if it goes up on 2 wheels or if it just hits the dirt and then goes up. But regardless, it goes up this ramp, flips over, and explodes like it's something out of Bad Boys 2. He then proceeds to walk up the street, still laughing, and 2 more dipshit cops come, and they're saying he decides he's going to kill himself. And they're doing the typical, like, "You have so much to live for. Think about yourself," or something, dumb shit. And we find out he's out of bullets because he shot like 12 times with this 6-shooter or something like. I'm sure I didn't count shots in this, but I'm pretty sure that he went over 6 shots in his little walk from Chip all the way over to the Evil Knievel jump at death. So, and then he ends up going, after that, he ends up in the psych ward recording a podcast with Dr. Dickwad, whatever it is, Dr. Blue. Sorry.
Oh, Dr. Blue would be so upset.
Fuck him.
I'm going to say, if you go to the IMDb page for this movie, which will be linked in the show notes, you can see the trailer that runs at the top of the page shows everything that happens in the Garbage Day sequence, just kind of cut with other scenes in between. I think he actually even says Garbage Day in it. You see the ramp.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah. You just don't see the part with the cops.
Movie.
But you see Chip's head kind of turn into, I don't know, a bursting ball of flames. I mean, it doesn't actually catch fire, but you see that. You see the Jennifer part, Garbage Day, the shot, all that stuff. It's all right there. So if you haven't seen the movie, or if you don't feel like watching the whole thing just to get to this part, you can go on IMDb and look at it.
You can also pull it up on YouTube.
Yeah, true.
So if you type in Garbage Day, the whole thing is on there. So I think I did a pretty good job recapping it. I don't think I missed anything too big.
No, great job.
So what happens after that, Sean?
Well, then basically, like, I don't want to break this down. I don't want to basically after this,
ruin the end.
This is when all this stuff happens before he talks to Dr. Bloom. So this is all led up to talking to Dr. Bloom, being institutionalized or whatever in jail. And after this is when he gets his revenge. He escapes and he gets his revenge on Mother Superior. I mean, that's essentially the end of the movie, which I did like. I appreciated that her address was 666.
I appreciate that. I'd like to know how having a stroke turns her into a mutant. I'm not quite sure what the fuck happened there.
Yeah, it's like she got burned on half of her face. They never explain it. It's a different actress than the first Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's supposed to be 20 some odd years later.
Yeah,
still.
I don't even care that it's a different actor.
I don't either.
It was just like, honestly, this is not the kind of movie where I'm worried about continuity. I mean, especially between a actor like Mother Superior in this case. But yeah, I have no idea why they decided to put this burn on her. It is a pretty quotable and entertaining finale in a lot of ways. It's stupid, but it's kind of ridiculous. So, and yeah, I guess I won't ruin the ending if you haven't seen it, but it wraps up really quick. And truthfully, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say because I'm going to just have to repeat it in 2 seconds anyway. So it wraps up pretty quick. And I think with that being said, we could probably move on to hot dogs.
So before we get to that, the last thing I want to add is that we've talked about several of them. The kills in this movie are absolutely, for a low budget movie, they're fantastic. They look good or ridiculous like you'd expect, whether it's that whole umbrella through the back thing, the Garbage Day sequence, all that stuff. You clearly didn't spend the money on top-notch acting, so I think most of the budget probably went to the special effects, to the kills and stuff, which is cool. The makeup of Mother Superior, maybe some of it went to that. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
I think they just made some burnt cheese and just stuck it on her face. So there you go.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
All right. I think did I go first last time or did you go? Sean, kick us off. Where's your hot dogs at for this?
All right. So I just want to say, I don't want to confuse anyone to thinking that this is a good movie, but it's absolutely ridiculous. The acting's bad. The story is basically non-existent if you take 40 minutes of the movie away, which gives you 35 minutes left, roughly. I think that this movie is a lot of fun. It's not good, but it's a lot of fun. If not a little boring with all the reused footage, but if you've seen part one enough, you've seen it once or twice and you don't want a basic rehash of that movie, I'd say just skip the first 40 minutes and watch the new vignettes. I got to give it a whole hot dog in spite of all that reused footage, because the new stuff is just so over the top and ridiculous. This is one of those movies, if you're into 80s horror movies, even if you're not into the Christmas horror kind of subgenre, I think this is an 80s horror movie that you have to see. Not because it's scary. It's not really horror. It's more just a comedy, maybe an unintentional comedy horror with some pretty cool practical effects kind of thrown on top of it.
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
Yeah, so I love this movie. So this movie gets all the hot dogs that you want to throw at it. I'm 100% in favor of this movie. This, much like Blood Rage, is the kind of crap that I like. It's over the top and ridiculous. The lead character is totally unhinged. It does a good job of like kind of cramming two movies together. And for me, like when it comes to these first two Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, it really just kind of falls into what kind of mood I'm in as to which one I'm going to watch. Frankly, I think the first one's a better film. Like, I think it does a better job of showing the whole story, creating tension, and making something that's potentially shocking and terrifying in its own way. Where this one, it kind of feels more like, yeah, we want to do that, but we also want to get drunk and have some fun with our buddies and have something fun to watch on a Friday or a Saturday night. So this is the one that I go back to when either I don't want to sit through the first one because it is not as, I don't want to say upbeat, but not as like fucking nuts as this one. But you still get all the like chaos of the first movie wrapped into a nice little bow. So I love it. Is it a good movie? Not particularly. Is it a great movie? Absolutely. It's fun. This is easily in my like top 5 Christmas movies, period. Do you want to get to question of the week? Because we didn't have that many of those this week.
Sure.
Sean looks so thrilled about this. So, question of the week this week is from Sean. And he says, what is the most memorable experience you've had while shopping during the holiday?
Don't pin this on me.
Fine,
if
fine.
nobody answered it, don't pin it on me. Hey, we got like 2 people to answer it. This is Sean's question. We got 500 people to answer it. This is a John question. So, John's question of the week is... Sidebar. Sorry. Side ran over.
The only people who liked us enough to answer the question of the week are fellow You Run Podcast Network members and Mortal Emily. No, go with that.
Is Mortal Emily a podcast? You Run podcaster?
Well, our Mortal Emily is the Krusty Boys, and they're from the You Can Eat That Crust podcast, and they answered us over on Blue Sky. And the response was as simple as this. I was in line during a holiday at a grocery store, and this old woman with shitty tattoos accused a much younger girl of cutting in line. But they were in opposite lines. The old lady called the girl a bitch. The young girl called the lady a cunt. And they almost fought until managers showed up. 'Twas great. The best part was that they had to stand behind each other in the line after. Also that same day, at a Walmart, this lady started screaming at a guy with no legs. She said, I told you, if you pull this shit again, we're done. And she just left him there in the Walmart. So they have ladies fighting and people dumping handicaps all in one shopping.
I thought you were going to say, she yelled at him, you ain't got no legs.
That's only funny if she calls him Lieutenant Dan. Sean, do you have any retail stories that you want to tell?
I actively avoid Christmas shopping. I do it all online. When I used to do it in store, I would just try to do it ahead of time where people just wouldn't get gifts because I don't want to wait in line.
All right. So next week, if you would like to tell us how to replace question of the week, we would like to hear it. You can send us feedback on how to do that. There's all kinds of places where you can send us said feedback. We are available at crap.town. That is our site where you can find all of our previous episodes, as well as leave us feedback telling us what we should do instead of question of the week. You can go to our social medias. We're on all the social medias that are relevant at Dewey Podmonster. Feel free to tell us what we should do to replace question of the week. If you got a better idea, you can go to yourunpodcast.com. You can check out our show. You can check out our friend Immortal Emily's, the Krusty Boys, as well as all the other great shows at yourunpodcast.com. Please check out the site. Please check out the network and find something else to listen to, including us or not, whatever. Sean, what else? What am I missing here?
I was going to say, if you want your question of the week answered or you're read on this show, you can do it on social media. Follow us on all the social media at Dewey Podmonster. Also, we're going to link everything that we talked about in the show notes. So if you click on any of those, they could be affiliate links. And some of those might earn us a little bit of scratch. And if you want to follow my Michigan craft beer adventures, you can find me at youtube.drafttherapy.com or on social media at Draft Therapy.
All right, that's all we got for this week. We'll see you at Batch Brewing on the 19th. We're going to watch this movie and have some fun, and we'll probably have an episode or two out before that. I don't remember where the calendar is right now, but we'll be back next week with more shit. Cheers.
Blah, blah, blah.